Hello and welcome back to the One Shot Show, where GMs go to level up. My name is Matt. Your name is Patty. Hello. I would describe you as a smoky barbecue brisket kind of guy, and I myself am more like a red wine and steak au poivre kind of guy. Those would be our archetypes, yeah?
Yeah, I'll take it. I love smoky barbecue, yeah.
Yeah, the crazy thing is, so do I. I don't know anyone who doesn't. We try not to pigeonhole ourselves too much, and yet that's exactly what we are going to do. We are revisiting one of our recurring segments, our recurring topics, rather, which is providing for your players when someone shows up to the table and they like playing a certain way or they want to embody a certain role with their character. How do you best match it? Which two are we talking about today, Patty?
We're going to be talking about the healer and the glass cannon.
Yes.
Two massive ones. I've had a lot of healers at my table. I feel like it's something that has so much promise at the outset.
Yeah.
But then it's hard to do. And I've run for very few glass cannons over the years, so I'm really fascinated to get into these.
And I'm keen to start with the healer and sort of throw you into the sea with that one. Because I think the first thing when we're talking about a healer is, compared to some of the other archetypes, the healer is one of the more system-dependent ones.
100%.
Like, some systems just don't really have a place for that kind of thing. And other systems, I currently run a lot in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. Look, you can't just play, a cleric and handle all of the healing yourself. But it's actually way more common to have a party where, like, 2 or 3 people have a little bit of off-healing. Yeah. And that ends up being plenty. So, like, no one is the healer.
I wonder, though, if that's because we've been burned by systems that have really not made that archetype feel the way that you want it to feel when you pick it.
And I also think asterisks on it from just a pure design standpoint when you're building a system is having healers in your system is actually really difficult to design around because it's very binary, right? If you want healers to feel impactful, then they often end up being necessary, which means it feels like shit when you don't have one, and nobody... if no one wants to play a healer and the system requires you to have one, then you have a bad time in that game. So designers try to avoid it, which then means that the people who do want to play a healer don't get to find their place. So how do we fix that? How do we give them what they want?
I've got a few things. A lot of them do come disclaimer, they come through a 5.5e lens, because that's mostly like where I found this pain point. So yeah, some of the things. My first one, which I go to as a GM now more often than anything mechanical, is that I love, and this is very Brandon Sanderson inspired, how do I, what is the role of healing in my world, and what does magical healing do? What does it look like? What is the status that it holds?
Okay.
Or what is the, what is the taboo that it holds? I found that if the world honors healing in an extraordinary way, then the player feels extraordinary as they do it. And this is something that was modeled to me by a GM who was running Curse of Strahd for us. And
it's always Curse of Strahd.
Always Curse of Strahd, always comes back to. It's always out there in the darkness, lurking in the shadows.
And Curse of Strahd.
But this GM did something that was the first time that the cleric in our party, because there are no gods in the thing, cast some healing magic. It was huge in this town. And I was like, whoa. And so as a result, this player, this healer, has felt very, like, their placement in the world and their ability to use this holy healing magic is extraordinary. And it has this narrative layer to it that I feel can sometimes get missed out a lot. And so yeah, I like thinking about that now with my natural magic healers, my holy magic healers. If there's something arcane in the healing, Daggerheart has this really cool thing of, like, the wizard is also a healer. Yeah. It's like, because you're the master of, like, multiple forms of magic, and so, like, that's in your suite of skills as well. So finding what that magic feels like in the world opens up so many opportunities for the player and for you as a GM.
And I think you're totally onto it there. Excuse me. At the heart there is this idea that you need to give something for them to be playing that isn't just the numbers of the health they restore.
Yeah.
Fighters are fine to just sort of show up and do a bunch of damage in an encounter, but outside of that, all their role play kind of keys off completely different things. If they're a son of a noble, they're going to play that very different to a back alley brawler, even though, mechanically on paper they're doing the same thing in the combat. You're right. It's about giving that more robust framework for the healer character to sink their teeth in, have a sense of meaning and purpose beyond just, oh, you're low, let me bring you up. Because the rules support the fantasy of healing people in combat as best as they can in the context of 5th edition. Other systems do it better. Plenty of systems do it worse. I'll be honest, it had never even crossed my mind before to kind of do it that way. Because one of the things I've often done with healing, because I often feel like I'm just solving the very practical problem when I'm running for 5th edition, that you kind of need something. Like, you need somebody who can do a little bit of healing for when people go to 0, and you kind of want to have a bit of resurrection magic for when you start hitting higher levels, to the point where, if my party has no healer in it, I've often introduced a subsystem that allows them to, hire a guy, and they might have the stat block of a Celestial Pact Warlock that basically exists to sit at the back, pump an Eldritch Blast out, and throw down bits of healing at the moments you would expect a healer character, the healer player, to do it, so that no player feels like they have to be the cleric.
I also introduced that, so the other problem with 5e, I think it exists in other systems as well, of healing is only important when you're at 0 hit points. There's no difference in your character with 1 hit point to 220 hit points.
The marginal, the 0 to 1 is the most important one.
So I've on occasion added stuff in where I have a healer in my party and I want them to feel good, where I will tier stuff based off health, or I'll tier stuff that's based off a creature's bloodied condition or a player's bloodied condition, to go so right now half the party are bloody, which means that all of these shark creatures are getting advantage on them. So if you can find if you can't you now have a roll for not 0 hit points.
Get them past that threshold.
If you can get them past that, and that threshold becomes a dancing point for the rest of the encounter or whatever it may be.
And it's neat that oftentimes when you're playing something that quote-unquote is a pure healer, they're often attached to a class that's traditionally known for other buffs and debuffs.
Yes.
So you're also the person that's maybe helping mitigate certain adverse conditions.
Yeah.
If they are a spellcaster, there's often other sort of, there's crowd control and area control spells, things like that. That's often where things sit. I at one point designed, a priest class, because I did feel like 5th edition was missing the really old school sit at the back buffs only kind of clerics are awesome. Love a cleric, don't get me wrong, but a cleric is like a battle priest more than they are
you've got huge offensive capability.
And also bards in 5th edition aren't the stand at the back, give everyone a +1 kind of guy. It's a bit of design that 5th edition moved away from. But I was like, well, what if I want that? So I designed that. I was like, here's the stand at the back passive, but you have to still deliver it in a way where you feel the impact, because you need to be able to tell a player, you have a +1 from me, and have that +1 make the difference. And on your turn, still be doing things and rolling dice. So it was a really interesting design challenge to create another version of the healer archetype within the framework of 5th edition that was satisfying to play, given that 5th edition solved its healer problem through making clerics feel great to play outside of their healing, and bards feel great to play outside of their passive buff and the occasional cure wounds.
I think that thing you're speaking to there, it's also inside the design systems. You need to give your healer meaningful choices. It's kind of I could choose to buff everyone here, I could choose to heal here, and as a GM, you've got to be. I think in order to honor the healer that's at the table, going okay, so what can they do and what can I do to provide a meaningful choice for you in this moment so that your choice feels important.
And a meaningful choice for the turns when no one's dying.
Yeah.
A healer loves it when someone's on 0, because they're like, this is what I'm here, let me handle this. But when everyone's kind of doing fine, they need to have something that they're doing to contribute. Look, at risk of running out of time, let's talk about the glass cannon. The glass cannon should be easy because it's short and it's sharp and it's one-dimensional. The glass cannon in its, sometimes called the glass hammer, it hits extremely hard but is extremely fragile. That's the loose conception. What it actually is, as far as I'm concerned, is any character that is extremely one-dimensional. And funny enough, the healer can be this sometimes. To give an example, I've had a long-running player. He would show up to any campaign I ran with, in any system with, the archer, right? He just wanted to be the, longest, sharpshootiest archer that could arch as hard as anyone ever did. if he was standing at the back shooting his arrows every single turn and heading like a freight train, he was a happy camper. He did not care that he didn't have any other meaningful skills or contributing abilities. He didn't, if the problem didn't require a bow, he didn't mind sitting there doing nothing.
Funny.
He just wanted to be the archer.
I love that.
And he was great at it.
That's so cool.
Now, providing for that player can be quite challenging because often how you provide for that player has very little to do with them and a lot to do with everyone else at the table. So providing for him was easy. I just had to give him stuff to shoot at and also make sure that he was happy doing nothing when there wasn't anything to shoot at. And he was. He knew what kind of person he was. He was perfectly fine with it. Everyone else, though, you know, the paladin that is meant to hit pretty damn hard and have all these other abilities and all sorts, they might be stood there in combat not hitting half as hard as the guy who can only shoot an arrow extremely well. And sort of go, man, all the rest of us that are meant to be good at combat don't feel like we hit half as well as this guy. So for me, it was actually about making sure that other people still felt like they had meaningful interaction with the part of the game that our one-dimensional character was great at. You often see versions of this where someone is, you know, the party face and everyone else feels like they don't ever get to roleplay.
Yeah, it's like, can you roll the thing? Yeah.
And the thing is, the face is seldom one-dimensional. That's usually on top of a broader chassis of other abilities. So usually the glass cannon is a very combat-oriented thing, and I think it's something that pops up a lot more commonly at tables because because of the wargamer type, the sort of person who looks at character builds from a very mathematical standpoint. They go, if I combine this thing with this thing, this thing. Yeah. I think a lot of people who dabble in that lead themselves to disappointment, but there are plenty that engage in it in a healthy way. That's just what they want out of the game.
100%.
They want to find this cool, crazy, one-dimensional power combo. They're a Spike. If you know Timmy, someone in Spike, the 3 Magic the Gathering archetypes.
Yeah. I'm not a Magic. I know nothing about Magic the Gathering.
It's a really fascinating concept, but I can't remember the 3 of them right now, so it's not really helping me. They're happy with that pure one-dimensionality, and it's making sure that everyone else still feels like they're contributing and doing stuff. And for me at that table, it kind of meant going, hey, everyone, Kevin's going to be playing an archer. Maybe don't play an archer. You're if you wanted to be a ranger with a beast companion and a bow and arrow and, have all these wilderness survival skills, I was like, maybe don't make it a bow and arrow. Yeah. Maybe go melee. Because you'll still get to do all your other cool ranger shit.
You're an axe fighter, but this guy over here only wants to be an archer.
Yeah, and you're going to feel like the worst archer whenever that is the most relevant thing at the table, which is whenever we're in combat.
That's a brutal lesson as an early GM when you realize that like 2 of your players have come in with the same fantasy and the system doesn't serve those fantasies equally. And you're like, what do I do to make you feel good?
Or one of them's just built it better.
Yeah, 100%.
It's not something that happens a lot in 5e. 5e is quite robust. It's very hard to make a shit character in 5e. Believe me, many still succeed. But it sucks when like 2 people are trying to do the same kind of thing and one of them's just doing it way better than the other because the other one's just like, oh.
Yes. Quickly, I need to redefine for you. My understanding of a glass cannon, I could be wrong here because that wasn't the way the game land, is that a glass cannon is a character who is ultimately squishy but likes to be far away and do very explosive things like your archer does. Is that a glass cannon or have I mischaracterized
That's the very mathematical underpinning of a glass cannon. Okay. But because combat isn't the only thing we do in RPGs, I'm sort of expanded the definition out. Like I would also say that if you have a character that for example, I run in Pathfinder 2nd Edition. It's quite possible in Pathfinder 2nd Edition to create a character that is fantastic at everything to do with diplomacy and intrigue and roleplay and, drumming up rumors, getting into criminal underbelly, all the charisma skills, and they're going to have useful buffs that kind of marry in nicely with all of that. And then in combat, they're like, fine. Yes. Like lowercase f, fine. And like aren't as effective as everyone else in combat. Now, they're not like ineffective. You're always sort of guaranteed a sort of bare minimum of decent operation, but they're not going to be as strong, quote unquote, as impactful in that combat as, the fighter who is built really, really hard out to be very, very effective in combat. that would still to me be a glass cannon.
Yeah.
Insofar as it's that high one dimensionality, and as soon as they're out of their wheelhouse, so to give the sort of high damage, low hit point version of the glass cannon, it's the low hit point is the sort of drawback of the one dimensionality, right?
Yeah.
As soon as they take any amount of hit in their weakness, which is their health total, they're out and down for the count. As soon as our influencer type is getting challenged in a combat, that's their glass, that's their squishy part. Even if they've got heaps of actual hit points, that's just the bit that they're not that great at dealing with themselves.
That's great. And so I go like, in my perspective then as a GM, it's kind of like, this combat encounter, they're going to be strong, but then I love when something's built this specifically, because you go like, okay, and now there is a curveball, and now the thing that you are excellent at becomes either a liability or you need to really tactically rethink, because like these players feel tactical. It feels like they've gone down a rabbit hole, they love that rabbit hole, and it goes like, okay, but now let's smoke you out, and now you need to try something else.
And in my experience, the other players don't mind letting the glass cannon shine in that moment where they really do get to shine, right?
Absolutely.
It is actually exciting for the whole table when the guy who hits like a truck rolls a 20, and everyone's like, this is going to be the most damage we've ever seen in our lives.
We had a beautiful moment at my table. It was a wizard who he spent his whole thing building toward, there was a particular magical safe in a particular magical tower, and he built up his whole character toward this thing, and we got to the point, and we all knew it was like happening, and he told me a little bit of it, but like he just sort of like laid out 7 spells in a row to get through the problem, and there were some really clutch rolls involved, but for most of us at the table, we were kind of like, you nailed it.
And it's the wizard with prep, and I've got to be honest, everyone who's ever played a wizard has gone into it hoping that they're going to get that moment.
100%.
Where they get to just maximally wizard. It's shoot your monks.
Yeah.
Give them that time.
Yeah.
Doesn't have to be all the time, but give them that one where they just get to stand there and like juice the party to the nines with buffs and crowd control and everything, blow their whole load of spells. They don't care that after that they're going to be sat at the back with like a dinky little magic missile and they're like 18
But
hit
let them
points.
be explosive. If they're a glass cannon, let them be explosive, even if it's only once a campaign and they get to do the whole shebang.
Let them be canon.
So much fun. Love all of this. Love talking player archetypes. We're going to, hopefully, there's a third batch of these that we have written down. I'm so excited by the time we get to them. But this is all the time we have time for today. Thank you for joining us, and we will see you next time.
If you enjoyed that episode of the One Shot Show, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/oneshot show. You'll see all of the offerings available. You can commission custom episodes. You can get video versions of our regular weekly episodes. You can get monthly bonus episodes where we deep dive into particular topics. You can submit questions for our regular Q&A format, and we have a new offering that we're going to be launching this month, where at the end of each month we will do a live Q&A session in our Discord server talking about the episodes from the most recent month. Also, for the next 3 months, anyone who backs us on Patreon will get 5 complimentary invites to our Discord server as we grow that community further. Please check it out, and please support the show.